Okay, so in lesson 2 here, we're going to go ahead and start sculpting the jacket of our Toon soldier. And the key here is basically just not necessarily overlap folds on the jacket, but we just basically want to make the jacket sort of look heavy, not excessively heavy, something that's probably similar to burlap. And we just start off by doing, a lot of basic blocky strokes to try and get the fold. Basically, the same sort of idea that we used for the pants is we basically just want to try and get a lot of blocky strokes and get the forms in there properly, because the base of the jacket form is going to be very important here. And so I'll just start off with a lot of blocky basic strokes to try and get the folds looking proper, and just slowly build up and I just basically use the standard stroke or the standard brush to block in those folds, and then I'll just start refining it in a little bit here and try to make sure that everything is sort of going to look properly, so it's going to look well whenever the character is rigged and animated and moving. I'm not sure if they would be using a cloth simulation on this, since this is basically a personal character that I did, and this wasn't really for a client. I'm just basically trying to think to myself, is where's the best place to go ahead and place the folds, and thinking along the lines of when it's moving, how I want those folds to be placed, or how I want them to be moving. I mean, I probably wouldn't be using a cloth simulation on this character, but I want to make it look like it does have a cloth simulation on it, and so I just want to try to get those folds to be properly placed and looking well, so that whenever it is animated, it is going to look good for the eventual end result, if that makes much sense. So I'm just, basically blocking out some basic fold strokes here, thinking to myself of where they should be. I am looking at a concept on the other screen, but that concept's jacket just isn't what I want in terms of folds or where the folds should be, so I have to sort of make them up as I go along here. And so I just start blocking in basic strokes and trying to get it to look proper in terms of folds. And it's just going on feel. And just trying to have fun with it, and that's just the general idea here. And as you can see, I slowly build up and just slowly use the standard brush and basically just add some strokes in here. And you definitely want to sculpt the inside part of the arms, because you sort of want to try to capture all the detail that's possible. Because the thinking behind that is, if somebody looks on the inside of the arms and there aren't folds, then it's going to look like the character doesn't have a lot of detail in it and a lot of depth. So you basically want to have the entire character model at least sculpted in some portion. Some portions can be a little bit heavier in terms of sculpting. Some can be lighter. As long as it has a lot of variation in the model and there's a lot of sort of like beat up areas or worn areas or like used material, then it's going to look fine. But if you have a character that isn't fully sculpted in areas like the underarms or on the back, it just doesn't look right. So you want to try to capture all that detail that's possible. It's just that sometimes you can basically get away with sort of hiding a lot of very detailed sculpting ideas, and so just try to get a lot of detail in the character is basically what I'm trying to get across there. You don't want to leave any untouched areas. As you can see, I'm going to continue working on the folds of the jacket here. And I'm just using, the standard brush to basically block those in, and then I'll use the subtract method to go ahead and subtract on the insides of those folds. As you can see, I changed materials there to go ahead and see, how the shadows are working properly, or see if the shadows are working properly. And I tend to do that a lot, and that's why you see a lot of those materials on the right side there, because they're all meant to show me the shadows on the character model. I definitely do a lot of BPR rendering to make sure that the character sculpt is coming along nicely, and so that it's capturing the detail enough to be shown on screen. And so that's definitely a good tip to take to understand, is do a lot of PPR rendering. Change your materials a lot, because then that way you can see if the sculpt of the product is coming along the way that it should. And you can see I'm using the subtract stroke there to go ahead and add a little bit more detail on the inside parts of the folds here. And we just slowly work up our subdivisions and try to capture a lot of detail in there. Try to get the folds to be looking proper. And make sure that they're looking right. And I know I tend to get pretty quiet in terms of when I'm sculpting here or the tutorial, and that's just because I'm trying to concentrate on getting the folds proper, and you got to keep that focused primarily for the character model. And as you can see, I'm just masking out here so I can go ahead and sculpt the sleeve properly, or the inside part of the sleeve. And I tend to do this, one side at a time, because I don't want the character model to look the same on both sides. And if it looks the same on both sides, then it's just going to be, it's just not going to have that same attitude as if it was different on both sides. So the key is to basically try to have a lot of variation and a lot of different structure in terms of character detail. You definitely don't want to have both sides the same. Though in some cases, like in games, you can sort of get away with that. I just personally try, especially if it's animation, to try and get both sides to be at least somewhat different, so it has a lot of variation in terms of detail. It just doesn't look right whenever it's like sort of mirrored and both sides being the same. It just doesn't look right to me. And that's just for cloth. The face itself, this is a little bit more tricky, because sometimes you see people with basically same sides on both of their face, and that's well and good, but in some cases you do definitely have to sculpt both sides of the face just a little bit different, not exactly the same. It's just trying to add a little bit more variation on one side rather than on the other side, and this way it just breaks up the character details. because if it's a mirrored image on both sides, and it just doesn't come across as being the same. And as you can see, I tend to use the standard brush a lot more than any other brush that Zbrush has to offer. Zbrush definitely does have a lot of, good brushes to offer, but usually you can just get away with, using the standard brush, in the Z sub or the Z add mode, especially when you're doing cartoon characters, because I don't want to say they're not that complex. I mean, yes, they are hard to do, especially if you want to try to get that attitude across properly. But they aren't real hard in terms of sculpting detail, because they aren't game characters, and so you can sort of get away with basically missing a lot of detail. But it's all just, on feel, and just trying to get an attitude across that's gonna make people laugh and have people enjoy the show or the sculpt in general, and make sure the characters are very visually appealing to the audience. Especially if you want to, have them go through a wide range of emotions whenever they watch the movie or the animation. So the characters definitely have to be very, very visually appealing. I don't want to say that they really have to relate to them. They just basically have to. Laughter is basically more important than having someone say, "Oh, this character doesn't look right, and I just don't like the characters." If you can get a person to laugh whenever they look at your character not moving, then you've done your job. If you're a character modeler and sculptor. But if a person doesn't enjoy the sculpt, or doesn't like looking at your character, then you're just not doing your job as a character modeler and sculptor. But you also have to like your own end product, and if you don't like your own end product, then it's just not good. So you have to like your overall end product, and you basically have to make something that people enjoy here. And that goes with, if you really look at CG sites or CG art sites, you'll see a lot of like naked female models, and people tend to do that because they're sort of looking for views in terms of generating more views for their portfolio, rather than trying to create something that's more visually appealing. I personally believe that it's more important to create something that's more visually appealing, rather than just, model naked women. Especially if you can do your job properly and get those characters to look the way that they're supposed to look, and getting that you basically want to get a performance across with a still character. And if you can do that, then you've done your job properly and you've done your job well. But if you can't get that across with a still image of a character, then especially a non-posed character, if you can't get that across, then you're just not doing your job properly. So the key is to basically be able to get that across and be visually appealing to somebody in the audience when it's not moving and when it's not posed. And that's a huge plus to being an artist. You want to make something that's very visually appealing and not moving, especially if you're a good character modeler. I definitely wouldn't say that I'm good at what I do. I'm more persistent and trying to take more information from people, especially getting feedback from from other artists or from the general public of, hey, does this character look proper, or do you like this character? And if they say yeah, or maybe uh, they'll offer some suggestions in terms of what I should change, then I would take that into account and maybe change it. So getting feedback and asking a lot of questions from artists is definitely a huge part of what I do, because it's just going to help you improve later on down the road. You definitely don't want to just sculpt something and say, oh, this looks fine here. It just doesn't work that way. You definitely have to get a lot of feedback. You have to ask a lot of questions, whether it's posting on forums or finding a good artist to sort of befriend and try and get feedback from them. I get that all the time, and definitely get it more now than say whenever I started, and that's because I guess people sort of enjoy my work, and it all works hand in hand. And so you basically just want to try and get as much feedback as you possibly can from other artists, and it'll just help you improve later on down the road. So definitely try to get a lot of feedback, and try to make your characters the best that they possibly can. And you can see here I'm trying to work on the shoulder and trying to get the folds in here at least to look proper, so that the jacket's gonna look fine whenever the character would be moving. But like I said earlier, it's all just basically on feel and how I'm liking the character, or am I enjoying the character at the moment. And it's just just have fun with it. Having fun with it is definitely probably the biggest part of CG art. You just want to have fun with it. If you're not having fun with it, then it's just not going to be the right thing for you. So you just really want to have fun with it. I just hope that comes across as I really enjoy what I do, especially when doing characters here. Products, yeah, I mean they're fun too, but there's not a lot of attitude in product. Characters are really meant to get that attitude across, and so it's you just gotta have a lot of enjoyment whenever you're making characters and trying to make something that people are really gonna enjoy. This is definitely the funnest job probably in the world. Character art is just one of those things that's just a lot of fun. Animation too. Animation's a lot of fun too. Though I don't spend a lot of time doing animation, I spend more of my time in terms of modeling. The actual creating an animation for me just isn't I don't really want to say it's more time consuming than modeling. It's probably about the same. It may take you longer to actually do animations, but I think character art is just a lot more thought that has to go into creating a character rather than the animation side of it. And so this is definitely the part that I enjoy the most, is creating characters, because these characters all have to be visually appealing to people, and people really have to enjoy them. And if people enjoy those characters, then you're doing your job. So just continue to basically sculpt the character and try to make them look funny. Really try to make them look stylized. And in this lesson, you saw me sculpt the jacket, and right now he's looking pretty good, and we'll continue sculpting him later in the next lesson and try to get more detail across.